I think anyone who did work in the public sector knew CSEA or knew about CSEA all the time, specifically in the mid-'60s, late '60s, when the campaign for recognition in the state of New York took place under the new Taylor Law.
I'm going to ask you to talk a little about the Taylor Law. CSEA and AFSCME had a very contentious relationship in the late '60s and early '70s after the establishment of the Taylor Law in New York and representation fights. What do you remember about those times?
Well, I clearly remember the fact that both organizations were very competitive, both in terms of the areas of the workforce that they represented at the same time, as well as competing for new areas that were made possible by the Taylor Law itself. We had a direct competition in the institutional unit, which involved the mental health institutions and those at the state level, in addition to some of the local governments, county and local government races.
How did the relationship soften over time to the point where CSEA considered affiliating with AFSCME?
I think both CSEA and ourselves recognized that ultimately we were not each other's enemy, but the employer was the enemy of both. And while we had different missions, our representation for our state councils and certainly our city of New York locals under District Council 37, we were trying to find the best way to service the needs of public sector employees. I think what caused the situation to really, crystallize was the fact that a large piece of CSEA, notably the what is called now PEF, the Public Employees Federation, came into being, which I think in the minds of the leadership of CSEA really raised the question of fragmentation and how could they best keep their entire unit together.
What do you remember about the affiliation? How did it happen, and what role did you play in helping to make sure it happened?
Well, as I said, on the event of the Public Employee Federation coming into being, I think great thought went through the minds of the leadership of CSA as to how to avoid this fragmentation issue. And we, AFSCME, were then the largest public sector union in the state. And I think the natural drift was to see what kind of relationship could be worked out with ourselves. And that same view was going through our mind. And it was on that basis that a number of discussions began to take place at the leadership level and also at the affiliate level.
How important was the affiliation for AFSCME?
Oh, critically important to us. I think it not only established AFSCME, reaffirmed AFSCME's leadership in the public sector, but it brought into being a large unit of public sector employees in the state, which meant for us that we had to intensify our efforts in understanding state government and certainly developing stronger procedures and methods for dealing with state employee interests.
How has the relationship between CSEA and AFSCME evolved over the years?
I think it's been a magnificent relationship. CSEA was an independent association. I personally come out of an independent association's background, so we had those backgrounds give you a different perspective on your role and your relationship with the employer, whether it be a state government or a county government. I think we convinced the CSEA leadership and at the top level and local levels that we understood public sector representation. And I think what they drew from us and learned from us is that we were not sort of the wild-eyed radical union that we had been presented to be on a local situation, but that we were trying to increase our ability to meet the needs of state employees and local government employees, and that they were a key factor in that. We had to work together to improve the whole, and I think over time that's proven to be a very wise decision.
How would you describe CSEA's role in AFSCME today?
or CSEA is a major participant, a major player in shaping the policy direction of the union, as well as how we approach major public policy questions, not just in terms of the day-to-day representation, but what's public employment going to be like 2 years, 4 years, 6 years from now? And New York State and the various public entities in New York State are a unique piece of our union and a unique piece of that problem. I mean, we want to maintain quality public services performed by trained and qualified public employees. And CSEA's vision of that as the largest group of public sector employees in our union is critical to how we formulate our programs for the rest of the country.
What do you think were the most important events and issues for CSEA and AFSCME over the past 25 years?
I think it's probably been continuing to build this relationship so that each party sees the continuous work as a work in progress. We're continuing to learn about their needs from a political perspective in New York State, and they are continuing to learn that they are a part of a choose to say, a magnificent whole. And what they give us is a sense of stability as we look at major public issues. And I think hopefully what we give them to deal with that situation is resources and support wherever it's asked for.
This is the little history section. They want you to comment on some of the CSEA leaders you worked with over the past 25 years, and I'll just read them one by one. Bill McGowan?
I think Bill McGowan was probably one of the strongest leaders who recognized the need for CSEA to make this transition from a independent but strong association to an integral part of the American labor movement. And that to come in as a strong organization meant that you not only played the rightful role as a part, but you became even stronger by increasing the size of the total union.
Irving Flammenbaum.
Irving was one of the most colorful individuals I've had the pleasure of meeting. As a matter of fact, I knew Irving Flammenbaum before I met Bill McGowan. Irving was a leader at the county level, one who really mixed his knowledge and understanding of local government, had an incredible sense of political engagement, and was really a sort of a people's person. So he put all those three characteristics together and come out with a leader that was both cunning in the context of dealing with the employer. It was politically sophisticated because he was able to, I say, walk all sides of the street on behalf of his employees. Irving was a master politician.
Joe McDermott.
I think Joe McDermott, as a successor to Bill McGowan, really built on the foundation that Bill laid, and that foundation being a strong and forthright engagement inside of AFSCME itself, making sure that CSEA was well represented in the decision-making process of AFSCME, but bringing his basic trade union skills to work on behalf of this affiliation. And both Bill and Joe did a major role in terms of integrating the two organizations together.
Danny Donahue.
I think Danny is one of the brightest and ablest leaders in the American labor movement today. And while he represents CSEA, which in the grand scheme of things is just one piece, his leadership of CSEA and his participation in our national union has allowed him to make a mark for public employees and workers in general at the highest levels of labor. I have a great deal of admiration for Danny.
Mary Sullivan.
Mary and Danny and George Boncaraglio play two important roles. One, represent CSEA on our board, but also represent our total union in New York and across the rest of the nation. They have been, I think, key parts of transmitting AFSCME's agenda to the CSEA leadership and rank and file, and vice versa, making sure that the executive board of our union is totally in tune with the thinking of CSEA membership.
Irene Carr.
Irene, aside from being a tremendous leader in CSEA, did something for the national union that I don't believe we could have done without her. And that is to take on the chore of building the women's movement in AFSCME, and in building it in a way that kept it focused on what its ultimate goal was. She was a very quiet but effective lady, and one who had the total respect, even though she come from an association side. All the other members came from basically the old AFSCME side, and she was able to bring leadership to that group in a very quiet and effective way. We've probably got, as a result of her contribution, the most effective women's committee of any union.
Anybody else?
No, because if I name one or two, you got to name some others.
How has the CSEA changed AFSCME over the last 25 years?
Well, I'm not sure changed is the word so much as maybe how has it made us intensify our work. I mean, we have become obviously much more knowledgeable about the importance of state government in the overall scheme of government, state, county, and local. And I think that's as a result of, the need to recognize that in terms of state and local government's ability to function, state is where the action starts. And we have intensified our efforts in that area. We've restructured our service mechanism to meet some of the needs that exist there. So I would say that we've gained from understanding the need to focus on state government at that level.
How has AFSCME maybe changed CSEA?
I think we've convinced the leadership and the rank and file members of CSEA that we are all public employees with the same set of problems, and that as an institution of 1.4 million folks, our ability to focus on the policy issues, to focus on the day-to-day problems of workers is the key to our survival, and that they are as much a part of this institution as we are a part of them, and that together we have an obligation to confront employers, irrespective of whether they're national presidents or state governors, on the day-to-day issues that affect our workforce.
Two last questions. How did you see the relationship between CSEA and DC 37 evolve over time?
I think it started off as a distant, a non-existent relationship, simply because, as I said earlier, the competition, between leadership, the competition for turf was alive and well for all of those years leading into the 60s. But under Danny's leadership, that gap has been bridged, and we now have DC 37, 1707, and CSEA meeting as a family in one state to talk about policy questions that affect everybody. And I think that could not have happened effectively without the leadership of Daddy Donahue and the enlightened leadership of DC 37.
What are some of your most vivid personal memories of CSEA events and activities?
Well, I think I would have to go back to one that George Boncaraglio got me engaged in, and that's when I discovered that the Brooklyn Bridge is not nearly as short as some folks think it is. One of the most magnificent demonstrations that was held in the region that George is vice president over was in New York City. And those of us who jumped at the chance to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge jumped at a chance. The bridge is longer than they say. That's one of my most vivid memories.
Anything else?
No, I would just say that over time, CSEA and its leadership and its rank and file have really found a home in AFSCME, and we've found a home with them. And as a result, we're organizing more and more workers who were both within their jurisdiction and who are in the basic AFSCME jurisdiction. And as a result, more workers have been made, more workers are getting the opportunity to have a strong union represent them, to have effective leadership up and down the chain, and public employees in the state of New York really have, over the last 25 years, let's say, seen a new beginning where their work and their value is much more appreciated as a result of the representation brought by CSEA and AFSCME United.